I'm gonna tell you something super shocking. Are you ready? You can buy a brand new Corvette C8 in the low $60,000 range. Can you believe it? Recently, I bought a 12-year-old Porsche 911 that cost me about as much as it would cost you to buy this all-American supercar. You could buy a used Porsche 911 or a used M5 or a car that looks like a Ferrari and has a beautiful V8 engine that you can see through the back window. Right now, there's a dealer in the US that's selling a brand new 2025 Corvette C8 for $63,000. $63,000 for a 490 horsepower mid-engine exotic. Unbelievable. Normally, I would never tell you to buy a new car, but with that kind of a price point, how could you not buy a new C8? And if you look at used C8 prices, they're in the mid-50s. Why buy a used C8 when you can spend just a few thousand more and get yourself a brand new one? To be fair, the $63,000 version does get you the base model with the 1LT package, but if you look at what the 1LT gives you, it's more than enough. This is a 1LT and you get a 10-speaker Bose system and a great infotainment. What you get with the base 1LT Corvette package is plenty. You get all of this. With the upgraded packages like the 2LT or the 3LT, you just get more goodies, but you don't need those. Everything you have is plenty, except for just one thing. It's a little bit hard to see out the rear view mirror because the rear window is small and the engine gets in the way. So with that upgraded interior package, you have the option to get a rear view digital camera display, which is better in terms of visibility. And even if you did choose to get the upgraded packages, a car like the C8 is totally worth $70,000, $80,000 brand new. An American car manufacturer has created something insanely amazing like this C8 Corvette with a totally functional air intake that looks absolutely incredible. I think GM has built peak Corvette. I don't know how they could build something better than this. This isn't even the C8 Z06 or the C8 ZR1 with over 1,000 horsepower. But those cars are of course a lot more expensive. In the low 60K range, you get a 6.2 liter V8, 490 horsepower, 470 pound-feet of torque. You don't need much more than that. To make sure your engine can breathe, you have grills next to the rear window. The window over the engine isn't even sealed. It needs more room to breathe. To get from 0 to 60 in under 3 seconds, this engine needs a lot of air. And the sound, oh my God, the sound. I've got remote start on this thing. Check it out. I could sit here and do this thing all day, just drown myself in V8 goodness. That's what I'm talking about. There's only a handful of cars in today's world that could even come close to that exhaust note. This is such a good looking car, except for one thing. I'm not a big fan of the wheels on the regular C8. The Z06 C8 has much better looking wheels, but this is a problem you'd have to solve by getting some aftermarket ones. With this kind of an exotic look, the C8 deserves some better looking wheels. There's so many sharp lines and angles with its wide hips. Truly is design perfection. Even the mirrors have an interesting shape. To go along with the exotic look of the car, you have exotic looking lights. Tail lights and headlights. With the daytime running lights on, it looks even better. With low-to-the-ground supercars, it can be hard to get in and out of it. Not in this American supercar though. It's relatively easy. In true supercar fashion, you have no back seats, just a view of the engine behind you. And just like the way GM intended to design it, once you're in, you have lots of comfort and it gives you a jet fighter-like feel. Strap yourself in and you're ready to hit it. With this big barrier between the passenger and the driver, Corvette's trying to send a message. Don't distract the driver. In the C8 Corvette, you get the option of different driving modes. You have a Z button here, which when you push it, all of your settings are maximized. Steering, engine shift, brake feel, engine sound, exactly like it needs to be. Using this dial, you can switch the modes. You have tour mode, sport mode, track mode. You have nice big paddle shifters. You're seated low to the ground, but you can see the curves of the hood. Lots of buttons for park, reverse, neutral, drive. With the transmission buttons, you have the all-important M button to switch it into manual mode, and this long strip of buttons for climate control. The minute you step inside, all you want to do is hit that start button. All digital display, including a 0 to 60 performance timer. On the dash, you have a C8 Corvette graphic to go along with it. As soon as you start driving, put it into manual mode so you can use the paddle shifters and shift. It's only a two-seater, the car doesn't weigh very much, and you have 490 horsepower right behind your head. And the cool thing is you get to hear the engine behind you. There's mechanical noises that come out. Just makes the experience that much better. There is no such thing as normally driving a C8. Knowing how this thing sounds at wide open throttle, that's the first thing that you need to do. Downshift a couple times. 0 to 60 under 3 seconds. It's almost like beast mode unlocks as soon as you mash that pedal. If you push the Z button, then all of the settings are maxed out with steering, engine shift, brake feel, engine sound, which is how you'd want to drive this thing in the first place. I wish a manual transmission option existed because I can't even imagine how much fun a 490 horsepower C8 would be where you could just shift the gears yourself. But the dual clutch transmission on this is pretty awesome. Seamless shifts, super quick. This is the best Corvette ever made, which means that this handles better than the C7, the C6, the C5. So you can take your C8 to the drag strip with almost 500 horsepower and you can carve up canyons with the same car. With this much power and aggressive sports tuning, the ride is actually pretty good, quite comfortable. Long distance driving on freeways, not a problem in the C8 at all. With 470 pound-feet of torque, this thing takes off like few other cars can. Lots of fun to whip this thing around turns. It handles great, so driving this car on curvy roads is a lot of fun. The only thing you have to watch out for, especially if you get a red C8, is this will be a cop magnet and it's so easy to drive fast. Just constantly monitor your speed. Otherwise, very easy to get into trouble. Need me some V8 noise. 0 to 60 in under 3 seconds, accompanied by that combustion engine orchestra. Not only do you hear the exhaust noise in this, but you also hear the engine working hard right behind your head. All this for $60K, that's a pretty good deal. You could buy a used Audi R8 or an AMG GT, but don't forget those crazy maintenance costs. This is a Chevy after all, so how expensive could repairs really be? And don't forget, if you buy the C8 new, you get the 3-year full factory warranty and you get the new car smell. Should I have bought this instead of my used 911? What was I thinking?